All right, we just watched episode 3 of season 2 of the new DCU's James Gunn's Peacemaker, and I gotta say, I liked it. It was alright. Alright. Well, so last week we talked about what I thought was going on in this show, and potential spoilers for here on out. This is not confirmed or anything, but just like based on what we saw in this episode 3, I feel like we now know what the big twist is. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the whole episode, stuff we liked, stuff we thought was fine, and we'll talk about why this episode was so interesting. And while I think a lot of this lined up with our expectations, I do think there were some big surprises in this episode. The cold open here is we get the flashback to 3 years ago. Hardcore and Rick Flag are together. Now they're friends, but they also have sex on the side. He has a girlfriend, which we'll talk about. But I think the first interesting thing here is this really recontextualizes Chris and Hardcore's relationship, because we always kind of got a sense, and there was a good reason why Hardcore didn't like Peacemaker originally. He was abrasive, racist, sexist, all that stuff, maybe well-meaning, but in the beginning of season 1, he was difficult to work with. And then over time, she came to respect him a little bit more, but in this season, there's still that distance between them that he can't seem to close. And now it's oh, maybe it's just because she knows that he killed her best friend / on and off again fling partner. So that's really interesting. And maybe that's something over the course of this season he will have to learn from Earth 1, Amelia Hardcore. He clearly feels very guilty about that, but this will make it so much worse. But then the other thing we learned, which is fun for nerds like me who care about canon, in this universe, Rick Flag Jr. is dating a woman who is named here June, and Rick says specifically that she is a sorceress and that she could burrow a hole in the world if she wanted to. And that means in this universe, the new DCU, the one with Superman and all of the stuff that's coming after that, also had an enchantress who also dated Rick Flag Jr. That's interesting. It definitely doesn't fully canonize what happened in the first Suicide Squad movie, the one that nobody liked, and the one that stars Harley Quinn and the Joker and a bunch of characters who I'm sure will get introduced later in the new DCU, and they will be different. They better be different from the Jared Leto version of Joker. Actually, I wouldn't mind if they brought over the Harley, but either way, I don't think that movie is going to sync up one-to-one with what's going on in the new DCU, but this is the first indication that stuff from Suicide Squad is kind of maybe canon. I think that's interesting. All right, so after the intro, we get the beginning of the episode. It's Chris in bed in what James Gunn on the Peacemaker podcast has called Earth 2, which I doubt it means this is Earth 2, the Earth that the Justice Society is from. He just means it's the other Earth. I think eventually we will give it a number or a name, and it will be, potential spoilers, this is the thing, I think it's maybe going to be the twist, Earth X or Earth 10. For people that don't know, Earth X is the Earth where the Nazis won the war. Earth 10 was the modern version of that, so it's pretty much the same thing, and it's not like the X always stood for 10, or at least I don't think it did. Not like Wolverine, kind of Weapon X, that kind of thing. But either way, they're the Earth where the Nazis won. I don't know if it's going to be specifically the Nazis, but I will say, one piece of set dressing / wardrobe, and a lot of the things in this episode were interesting, but one pattern that came up a couple of times was this square circle sort of thing, which I don't want to say is necessarily a swastika, but it's not one, but it's similar enough. We see it on the wall, we see it on Peacemaker's sleeve. I'm not saying that I think that's what that is, but I do think that is something that if this does turn out to be the Nazi universe, Chris is going to look back, oh my god, of course, the whole house. But speaking of the house, he wakes up, he gets dressed, his outfit is terrible, all of his shirts are from Dan Flash's by the creek, and that would make sense because all the guys have to fight to get the shirts from Dan Flash's, and Peacemaker is very strong, so he would be able to get a lot of shirts, and he also seems to have a lot of money, so they could have some pretty complicated patterns. I like that Earth 2 Peacemaker was very tacky, and it seems like Earth 1 Peacemaker doesn't mind wearing the clothes, but he does recognize that they look kind of silly. Now I think, and let's get rid of Nazi, because maybe they'll just do white supremacists. Maybe that'll be the idea, and Nazis and white supremacists, they're kind of the same thing. But let's just say this is the white supremacist world. One of the things that I was thinking last week, I don't remember if I said this in my videos, how we're gonna know is if certain things are gone or different. I think one example that I think could be fun is if there's no super soakers, right? Peacemaker needs a water gun. He's do we have a super soaker? And people in his family or the people in the world are what's that? Because super soakers were invented by a black man. So in this universe, if white supremacy verse, that just wouldn't have happened. So they just don't have those. I think we did get something like that here, but I think you could also maybe say this super tacky Earth is just one with the worst style because there's nothing but white people around. And speaking of that, we drive through the town and there's nothing but white people around. I tried really hard to find a person in the background of any shot who is specifically not white. There are some people, they're like, maybe this person, but like, it's definitely a deliberate choice. The show takes place in Washington, which, has its fair share of white people, but there is no way that a show made by a big network like Warner Brothers would ever hire only white extras by accident. Like, there would be somebody else there. And say what you want about like how white Washington is, it's not completely. There's other people. And I even thought, like, before the episode started, I was like, even if we do see, a couple people of color, I don't think that guarantees that this is not the white supremacist Earth. Like, that could just be that these are the good ones, there's a couple of them that they keep around because it's nice, but in reality, it's like mostly white people and they're in charge of everything. But I genuinely did not expect it to be this much only white people on Earth too. But also we get the conversation with Peacemaker and his brother where Peacemaker references the Kardashians and his brother's like, I don't know what that is. Now, you read that a couple different ways. One, this is a world that is exactly the same as ours, except it lacks the Kardashians, which, to be fair, it's not the worst thing in the world. But second, if this is the white supremacist universe, the Kardashians are famous mostly because the father of that family, Robert Kardashian, was the lawyer for O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, for people that don't know, and the fact that I have to explain this feels a little weird, but like, if you're a little younger than me, you may totally miss this. He was a famous football player. He was also in the Naked Gun movies. He was very popular. Everybody liked him. He's a running back. And then his wife and I believe a boyfriend or something like that were stabbed to death. And it seemed like for a while it was OJ who did that. Now, technically, currently, he did not do it as far as, court is concerned, and he is dead. So I don't think they're really going to relitigate that. There's a lot of people that still think that like he probably did do it, but like I don't care about that now. It's a big police chase, Ford Bronco. It's one of the things that led to the 24-hour news cycle that's like bad and ruined everything, was the coverage of the Ford Bronco chase with OJ. Anyway, so there's two ways that Robert Kardashian maybe just didn't happen in this universe. Option one, maybe OJ did not get a trial because he was not allowed one because of the color of his skin. Or maybe he just did not survive that chase. Like maybe the dad, the blue dragon, just came in and blew up his car like the brother blew up the helicopter today. So no Robert Kardashian if OJ explodes. Or maybe the NFL just is not integrated in this universe and a black man like OJ Simpson just could not become famous enough for people to care about this trial enough for Robert Kardashian to raise his profile. Listen, this is a complicated way of saying this is the one specific thing that the show went out of its way to say is different about this universe. I don't think that is a mistake. I think that is deliberate. Also, the line that Peacemaker uses is kind of clunky to get there. It's like the Kardashians' couch. It's like, are their couches known for looking all, gaudy? But I can see a world where that is why that line exists. And Chris did not bring this. He didn't ask, like, what do you mean who were the Kardashians? Kim Kardashian, all those people. Like, he just moved by it because Chris is kind of oblivious in this world. Maybe another character later will see this stuff, but Chris can't because he has his blinders on. So he has the peace cycle here. We learn that Amelia works at Argus. Peace cycle is fun. I like that it has big ugly speakers on it. And I love the idea of this world that loves Peacemaker. And people are just like giving him the peace sign on the street and the kid cries. That's funny. Now here we got the thing that everybody kind of expected was coming, but we still saw it, which is fun. Rick Flag Jr. is alive in this universe and he works at Argus. And because of how Peacemaker and Amelia have a better relationship in this universe than they did in the other one, and because he is Amelia's boyfriend, but she clearly still has a thing for Peacemaker in Earth 2, he feels really insecure about that and compensates by being kind of a goofball. I really liked Joel Kinnaman here. I generally like Joel Kinnaman. I enjoy For All Mankind. So I'm happy to see him be kind of a goofball here. Apparently the line,
big problem,
that was improvised, so that's fun. We get to see more Earth 2 hardcore. She seems normal, nothing super evil about her yet or super white supremacist-y about her yet. Besides the fact that she is a little bit more friendly to Chris, obviously there's more romance there, but maybe she's more submissive in the way that certain groups expect women to be submissive to their husbands and stuff. Not that they're married, but you got what I mean. Very pretty dog, that golden retriever, love that. But then that guy explodes and we get the Sons of Liberty. So this is a DC Comics thing. The Sons of Liberty are a group of terrorists who are bad and kind of ultra nationalist in America. I don't know if that's what they're doing here. It could be that if this is Earth 2 in the white supremacist universe, these guys could be good guys. I mean, they do threaten to murder innocent people and they do kill, it's not like they're fully peaceful, but this could be kind of a flip version of the Sons of Liberty. If the government is super bad, maybe they're secretly good or whatever, and they go to blow up the DMV, which isn't, it's a little funny because it's like, it's a DMV, but still. And we get a great scene where Chris, as Peacemaker, jumps into the building, fights everybody, very gory. Says again, James Gunn is not beating the allegations that he has something against eyeballs, because in here we see Chris stab a guy in the eye with a knife, and it's just like, I don't know, man. James, I'm not saying you had an answer for this, but like, I would love to hear if this is something you do deliberately, or if this is something, if we explain it to you, you'd be like, oh, I guess I do. That makes sense, because, you know, I had a really bad encounter with an eyeball this one time, and I always wanted to get revenge, but I don't know. I can't remember if it's a DC or Marvel guy, but there's a comic guy, I'm pretty sure actually it's a Marvel guy, who's just a big eye. So I hope that character never has to deal with James Gunn. The Peacemaker disarms the bomb by just like pulling the wires in a way that's like a little too easy, but I don't think this was staged. Like, I don't think that's the idea, although that could be what's going on. Like, maybe this is staged by Argus to be a terrorist attack to justify turning, you know, America into more of a police state. Like, that's an option, because like, he just pulled the wires and then it didn't explode, but like, that's not usually how defusing bombs works. But if that was the case, why would the guy trip and explode? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And Hardcore would be in on it, so why would she want him there? It doesn't seem like that's advantageous for her, even if it's just her regular Peacemaker. We see the brother, Captain Triumph. I didn't mention this last week. I think I did have this thought. I didn't know it was Captain Triumph, and I don't think, maybe we've seen that word somewhere in the background. It's a very like golden agey DC Comics character who has no real identity these days, so no one would miss the name, no one will care. There aren't hardcore Captain Triumph fans who are going to be mad. I was thinking about this. The word triumph is a little interesting, specifically because, again, if you look at this whole thing through that white supremacist Nazi lens, there is a very famous piece of propaganda from World War II called The Triumph of the Will. It's a movie made by Leni Riefenstahl, a German director, and it made Hitler look like everybody's favorite guy. It's a fascinating piece of media because obviously like Hitler was awful, but it's interesting to see how they sold him as like a charismatic figure in that country. It's a really weird video, but like something a lot of people have heard of. It's very famous, but I don't know, maybe that's why the brother's name Triumph. It's supposed to evoke that era and that regime. I could be reading way too far into it, but again, now that it's kind of like when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But I do think they handed us a hammer here with all these white extras. It's like, this is probably the white supremacist universe. So yeah, just looking for nails here in the backgrounds of scenes and stuff. The brother mentions that Chris has been distant and like disappearing recently. Maybe Chris is a freedom fighter in this universe. Maybe he is a good guy, part of the resistance. That would be interesting. You would want in a show like this to make the Earth 2 version of Chris also bad, if only so that when we find out what was going on, Peacemaker doesn't feel as bad about killing alternate universe Peacemaker if he was like a Nazi. But you could do it where like he was secretly cool, and that way you have other characters now that may treat him differently. Like if we do meet the resistance, they may be like, oh, you're cool, come with us. And like, that would be another interesting thing for him to do. And then last thing with Peacemaker, I do think it's interesting that in the conversation with Hardcore, he misspelled your, he used the wrong your, he used the possessive one instead of the contraction. I kind of expect maybe in the future, he'll do that again, and she'll bring it up, and maybe he'll say, oh, well, he's some sort of grammar Nazi. Maybe she'll react in a way that's interesting, because like, Nazi has very different connotations on Earth 2 than it does on Earth 1. That's just like a little thing, but again, felt intentional. Peacemaker's kind of dumb, but he's not known for misspelling things, but the show kind of went out of its way to do that. And I saw on the Peacemaker podcast, James Gunn was saying John Cena did not like typing out the text message with the wrong "you're" in it because he's very used to using proper grammar. So maybe that's something that they chose to do for that reason in the future. I don't know, just an observation. The B plot I think was fun. We did get all the Crow stuff. So this, again, something I learned on the podcast. All of the vigilante loving crows thing apparently comes from James Gunn, who also loves crows. Just like fascinated by them. And, you know, it's the urban legend about the Nixon mask. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but like on the podcast talking about that time, I think the story with this is a researcher put on a Nixon mask and threatened crows, like trying to be scary to them, so that anytime anyone wore a Nixon mask around the crows, because the crows will tell each other, not only will they remember Nixon mask guy bad, but they will tell each other, like, watch out for a guy with a face like this. And if there's anybody else wearing a Nixon mask, the crows around there would like yell at them. Or even if actual President Nixon, when he was alive, showed up at this college, then he would also get tormented by the crows. Like, he wasn't an incredibly popular figure. I had heard the same thing about Dick Cheney, but I actually looked this up. Apparently, Dick Cheney was part of a different crow experiment from the 2000s where a researcher used two different masks, I believe, a caveman mask and a Dick Cheney mask. I don't know why those two, but they picked those two. The caveman was the threatening one. The Dick Cheney was normal. And then years later, they went back to see if the crows would remember the difference between the two masks. And they did. They had like this memory that the caveman was the bad one. So the crows would yell at them. So like in this example, if they met Dick Cheney, they would actually like him, or like the crows would be indifferent to him. I remember hearing the urban legend that someone did that to have crows attack Dick Cheney. While that is very funny, I don't think that ever happened. We get a little bit of Adebayo here trying to break through with Amelia. Amelia obviously doesn't really want to talk about what happened with her and Peacemaker, but Adebayo being A, a good friend, and B, just curious about this, like any person in like a friend group would be when two friends hook up. Like, I don't know, she just wants to find out. On the other side, we get Vigilante and Economos, and Economos gets the call from the hospital where everybody's mad because of the eagle attack. I'm very glad that Economos brought up the thing that I believe I said, which is like, hey, if you care so much about birds, you should figure out which superheroes have birds, especially if you're going to profile one superhero. Like, you're just going to watch him, check if he's got a bird thing going on, because if you break into his house, you may get attacked by a bird. And I just love Tim Meadows here. Again, we got less of him in this episode, and then we still got the funniest line where it's kind of indignant with Economos about Economos using the bird blindness against him, but this character is so obnoxious and like loathsome, he could not stop but say, obviously it would be funny if you used my disability against me, but it's not cool. I thought, like, yeah, like that. We also got the introduction of Michael Rooker's Red Saint Wild. This is the eagle hunter who is here to take out Eagly's nemesis. Apparently, I think I read this somewhere, I can't remember where, Michael Rooker was not the original choice for this character. It was going to be played by someone else, and maybe they dropped out at the last minute or something, so Michael Rooker took over, which maybe explains why his costume very much does not match Michael Rooker. And I did see James Gunn say, well, he is very much culturally appropriating. He also just kind of looks like Willie Nelson, which is a look, so I don't know. I just thought it was funny when he wanted to kill all the eagles in the area. I thought that was funny. And then we got the reintroduction of Judo Master here. I don't think we ever got his name in the original series, like in season 1, but here they did name him Rip Jagger, which is what that character's named in the comics, so that's fun. So it looks like these guys are just going to be going after Peacemaker, trying to get the interdimensional door from him. So I think that's interesting, and what I think is really interesting about that is what that will set up is in episode 4, where we probably won't spend too much time on Earth 2. Everybody's probably just going to be running around fighting each other on Earth 1. I do believe, and I've said this last week, but I'm going to say it again, episode 5 will end with a character, probably Adebayo, going to Earth 2 and looking around and saying, like, hey, Chris, where are all the black people? Or why is everybody white? And then Chris will say, what do you mean? And she'll go, everybody here is white. How'd you not notice that? And be like, oh, I didn't think about it. And then that will be the indication that like something is up on this Earth. And I think it's going to be in episode 5 because that is apparently where there's some big turn. Episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they all got sent out to reviewers, but reviewers did not see 6, 7, and 8 because they are something very different. And I imagine that is when we will learn that this is white supremacist, this is Earth 10, Earth X, whatever we're calling it. Maybe we'll even do like Nazi Superman. I was thinking about this, like there are plenty of DC characters that are Nazis. Like they've done many, especially because, you know, DC Comics is quite old, but also like those characters exist. I don't think it would be crazy if the like character Captain Nazi showed up here. It would be a little kind of like, I don't think we really need him because A, he's a Shazam character, and B, like, I don't think we get much with him. I think we get a lot if we have David Corenswet being evil Nazi Superman. I do think it may be a little early for that. Like the idea of like, what if Superman was evil is something that I think the public is really kind of tired of. So I think if they do that immediately, I don't know, might be like, who cares? You could do Nazi Power Girl. In fact, you could make her, because Power Girl, for people that don't know, is this Supergirl who is from Earth 2, who is like not a bad guy, but she is just different. Like she's a different character who was brought into Earth 1. So she exists alongside Supergirl in the current canon, but like Power Girl's different. You could even make her white Power Girl. Like that could be a bit if you wanted. You could get Millie Alcock back, or you don't have to. You could just get somebody else. To be fair, this is something they did on The Flash. They did the whole like Nazi Earth version of superheroes and big crossover in the Arrowverse. So like, and this has kind of already been done, and specifically been done with Supergirl at the center of this universe. So like, would that be that interesting here? I don't know. But I do think that like, it's not just going to be, oh, this universe is bad. It's going to be like, we're going to zoom out from this town in Washington and it's going to look really bad. Like, it's going to not like be post-apocalypse, and maybe like, you know, Adebayo will open up a phone and like just Google a picture of like DC or like somewhere else, like find out like New York City or like Mexico, which is destroyed by this Earth. Or we'll do the like kind of Cobra G.I. Joe big flags going down the White House that are the evil Nazi, you know, insignia. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that, and that is the imagery that 5 ends on. Because yeah, Chris is definitely gonna have to kill his brother, and that sucks for him. But also the same way that like he killed his dad. Well, his dad was a bad guy and was always a bad guy to him. It's different for him to kill, even if his brother's also a bad guy, it will be different for him to kill his brother, who in his head always would have been cool if he had not killed him by accident. Or maybe for this, like Hardcore will kill his brother as like a, hey, I'll do this for you so you don't have to kill your brother again. And you know, that would be nice of her. So overall, again, I think this episode was good. Peacemaker, just a solidly good, funny show. This episode had a lot of solid action, very gory, and I'm not going to use too many videos of it here, but fun. Fun like this show is fun. But yeah, and I'm really excited for the future. And you know what else I'm excited for the future of is Nebula. Because Nebula, as I'm sure you know by now, but if you have not heard of it before, is a subscription streaming service that me and a bunch of my YouTuber friends helped to create. Is a platform where we're free to not have to worry about the algorithm. I put all my videos, my Nando V Movies videos, and my Nando Cut videos up early. So if you want to see my next video now, which is about the Serpent Society in the MCU and why that's kind of a mess, you can watch that early, or you can wait until it comes onto YouTube in like, I don't know, like couple weeks, a month or whatever. Like, who wants to wait? It's fun to watch stuff now. This video was early on Nebula. You can watch it, you know, maybe a couple hours early, but still all the videos early, ad free. You can download them on your phone. So that's nice. You don't have to worry about like taking up all the data. But then the most exciting thing right now is our production of Nebula originals. So these are like movies, short films, plays, documentaries. These are all created by Nebula. So these are our people. These all tend to be projects the creators are really passionate about. And we're able to put out like some really cool stuff. Patrick Willems has a short film coming out very soon that they just put a teaser out for called The Dinner Plan, which like, it's not out yet, but like I've talked to Patrick about it. It's very fun. I don't want to just like tell you everything about it, but like it's cool. And it has people you definitely recognize, like John Hodgman's in it, Zach Cherry is in it. And then we have another show coming out called Subliminal, which Patrick directed an episode of, which I wrote an episode of. It is an anthology. You will see so much stuff for it in the future. When the trailer is out, I will be sharing it constantly. But if you want to, A, see all our videos early, get access to all of that, and B, help us creators make all this cool stuff that we could not make by ourselves, give Nebula a look, because it's great and it is a steal at $60 a year or $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. That's just $3 a month. It is an incredible deal. Go check it out now. Look out for Subliminal, my episode, all the other cool stuff we're working on. I think you're going to love it. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.